Hi guys, welcome here to Distilling, where today we're looking at our Whisky Add-On Kit. Now the Whisky Add-On Kit is the same kit or the same equipment that's used in our W2 grain-based spirits course, which used to be called our Whiskey and Moonshine course. The exact same items you see here is used in that training course as well. So if you're busy with our W2 course, then and you want to replicate the practicals at home, then this is the kit that you need to buy in addition to our standard starter kits. Now, just to clarify, in our starter kits, the starter kits we sell with our Alembic stills and with our adjustable reflux column still, with our 13-liter round still and so forth, the standard starter kit includes everything you need in order to do a sugar wash, to work with fruit or fruit juice, or to do a rum fermentation. But in order to work with grain, you need certain additional items and ingredients which is used to do a starch conversion, to take the carbohydrates you obtain from the grain and convert that to fermentable sugars. And that is what's included inside the Whisky Add-On Kit. So in this kit we have the following equipment and consumables. Let's look at the equipment first. We've got a 10-liter bucket, stainless steel bucket. We use this as a small little mash tun. Obviously, this kit is meant for the 5-liter size, but we can, it's not standard products, but we can, on request, make up larger kits for larger stills. But the standard kit is for a 5-liter fermentation size. So you've got the 10-liter stainless steel bucket in which you're going to boil your grain. Then you've got a copper cooling coil. This is used to do what we refer to as a blowdown, a quick cool down of the mash between the different conversion temperatures. So when you add when you boil the grain, you boil that at about 90 to 95 degrees. Then we cool down to 85 degrees to add the first enzyme. For that we can use the cooling coil, or we can just rapidly stir. But the lower we need to go, cooling down, for instance, from 80 to 56 degrees, stirring it takes too long, and cooling down from 56 to 40 degrees at the end of the conversion process, that will take very long if you're going to just stir it. So we use the cooling coil to circulate cold water through the copper, using it as a heat exchanger, removing the heat from the mash and rapidly cooling it down. Then we've got a thermometer. Thermometer is quite important to measure the temperature of the mash during the conversion process, because if you've done training with us, you would know one of the determining factors of the effectiveness of an enzyme is the temperatures at which it works best. So our alpha amylase enzyme, our dextrolic, that works best between 80 and 85 degrees. Our glucoamylase enzyme, our sugarolic, that works best between 60 and 65 degrees. So we need to be able to measure it accurately, hence we have the thermometer. Then we've got our two enzymes, the dextrolic and the sugarolic, alpha amylase and glucoamylase enzyme. That is to give our starch conversion. So we boil our grain to extract the starches, to extract the carbohydrates. Then we use the dextrolic, the alpha amylase, to break those carbohydrates down to dextrins or complex sugars. We then use the sugarolic, the glucoamylase enzyme, to break those dextrins down to simple fermentable sugars, our glucose and our fructose molecules. We also then have our yeast. Now this is whiskey from grain. We also have whiskey from barley yeast. Now the whiskey from grain yeast is what you would typically use in a mixed grain bill. If you're combining wheat and rye or maize, or just using any of those grains on their own, that's your go-to yeast, Speyside Gold whiskey from grain. Whiskey from barley, on the other hand, is meant for single malt barley fermentations. We also have sodium metabisulfite. Now sodium metabisulfite is a granulated sanitizer. It can be used to sterilize fermentations as well, either prior to fermentation to kill wild yeast, or it can be used during fermentation to stop the fermentation at a certain target percentage. But in this case, we use it to sterilize the equipment. Grain fermentation is very susceptible to bacterial infection due to its high pH, so we use this sodium metabisulfite to make a sterilizing or sanitizing solution in which we rinse all our equipment prior to use to stop bacterial infection from happening inside the grain. And then we also have Starch Indicator. Now, Starch Indicator is used to do a starch test. At the end of the conversion process, we use this iodine-based Starch Indicator to test whether or not we had a successful conversion. If you get a positive starch test result at the end of the conversion process, you know something went wrong with your starch conversion. What we want is a negative result. If there's a negative starch result, we know we had a successful conversion. There's no starches left. And then the last component or last part of the Whisky Add-On Kit is barley, malted barley. This is normal pale malt. You get a 2 kg bag of pale malted barley with your kit. That is sufficient to make 1 5-liter fermentation of single malt barley. Alternatively, if you were to use this in combination with other grains, with corn or rye or wheat, this would be sufficient to make 4 5-liter fermentations using 500 grams of malted barley per fermentation. So that is our Whisky Add-On Kit, to be used ideally with the 5-liter Alembic still starter kit, or as I've said before, we can upscale these kits depending on what size you need.